Morning. Thought I'd send you a little video of what I have going on with my instrumentation reading of voltage on my Locomotive control system. So here's a little monitor with all my data on it. You can see where it says A volts. It's sort of running, toggling between 92, 93 volts. And I get that because I'm using this Variac. And when I turn it up and down, it changes, but it's always sort of just toggling around. And I know why. I've looked at it on the scope. It's just that the voltage is that I convert from the AC I do with this board here. Has a little transformer on it. I've been experimenting with a lot of different things on this board, and all these components are not in use anymore. Basically, the only thing that's in use is the little blue transformer, the big cap down there on the bottom of it, and there's the bridge rectifier. And then there's a little 1K resistor load so that the cap discharges and brings the voltage down. You see it's a beautiful job there. I put a piece of tape there because I've already shocked myself a few times. So then I have a voltage divider on the output of this. This is a 120 to 12 volt transformer, very small one, which is just fine for me. And when I get full range out of my Variac, it's about 140 volts. I get 18 volts DC after it's peaked through the bridge and the cap at maximum, but I can only read on my system here. This is my data acquisition board. It has a 8-bit digital or analog to digital converter here, and it has 4 channels, of which I'm feeding right now with these. And the channel that I'm using for this one is channel 4, and it gives it, with the voltage divider, basically it converts the 140 volts in to 4.5 volts out, so that's sort of my maximum reading. And then with a little bit of scaling, I was in software, which I can do pretty easily, I convert the 4.5 volts to a reading of like 90 in this case. And again, it tracks pretty well. I just like to smooth up the ripple in the voltage some more. And since I have to build a PC board for this, which maybe can come up with some sort of more sophisticated rectifier filter system that'll take even more of the ripple out of the AC when I turn it into a DC voltage to read with my converter. That's my data acquisition board, by the way. It's runs off of a basic stamp. It has 4 channels of analog input, and it has 4 digital channel inputs. This one here I use simulates my miles per hour. It simulates this a tooth sprocket reader on my train, and I just have a little NE 555 oscillator I found on eBay for $2, and it just sits here and runs. And if you look at the top of my thing, it's reading out at 4.8, 4.9 miles per hour. So when I plug that onto, that's already working, and when I put this software in my train, it reads out nicely in miles per hour when I'm driving. One of these, the way that works on this, there's some little command in the basic stamp to read frequency by telling how long it takes for a pulse to go by, which works pretty well and doesn't take a lot of CPU time. On my board here, by the way, you see these toggling lights here. That tells me how often it's going through a cycle of a read cycle and a transmit cycle. This board transmits it reads 7 bytes of data from my controller board, which is this board over here, which is the one that runs all the relays and the throttle. See that little servo there? That's the throttle servo that when I turn this knob. So that runs the throttle on my engine. And then the little bar graph there, that tells me is my controller for my brake air pressure. Someday I'll do a video explaining the entire system of the train. So the data originally comes from my controller panel, goes through the control system, and then comes into my what I call my monitor system, which is actually the data acquisition board. And it samples various other data from around the engine and creates about 20 bytes of data that it sends pretty fast. And you can see it's updating every time those lights toggle. So I'm getting plenty of update. This monitors that serial data and converts it into video and places all the various things I'm reading on the video screen. I have again, about 20 bytes of data. 2 of them are used bitwise, which are those ones down in the lower right that say Control 1 and Control 2. So when I just push a button that, like, for example, I sound the horn, I push this button over here, and this is the horn button. It sends serial data through the whole system, and then it monitors that thing on Control 1, the 4th bit over. LSB's on the right. That one that says Greg's is just a channel that I have that I can monitor anything I want. Right now I have it monitoring the voltage reading thing, plus the volts are reading on both the A unit and the B unit, because I only have one of them. So that's sort of the premise of the system.